Hello, I am Tom, and this is our tool bench. Now this is a working cattle ranch, and this is a real bull skull. We nicknamed him Einstein. He doesn't have his brain, but he still has all his teeth. So he must have had a pretty good dentist. Now every vaquero is going to need a good rope, and it's called a rayada. Now you make a rayada from one single cowhide. You cut them into 1/4-inch strips, and then you braid them together. So you get about 4 or 6 strips, you braid them so it's really strong and tight. And then you stretch it, get it in some water, let it soak for a couple weeks till it's about 75 or 100 feet. Once it dries, it'll shrink up and it'll be nice, strong, rigid rope. Now this rayada is just an example. This one's been chewed up by the mice and the rats. Thanks a lot, Ratatouille. There's lots of horses on the ranch. And the person that takes care of the horses is called a farrier. A farrier is going to use this tool called a nipper. And when they need to remove an old shoe, if it's cracked or bent, they're going to take it off and pluck it off. Pluck, just like that. And then they're going to use the nipper to trim around the edges of the hoof and make it nice and smooth and flat. Similar to how when we trim our fingernails. But make sure you don't cut them too short. Like when mom and dad try to cut our fingernails sometimes and they cut them too short, it hurts, it bleeds. Thanks a lot, Dad. Well, sometimes Mom. Well, when you remove the old shoe, you're ready to put on a new shoe. You get a hammer, some nails, and you hammer the new shoe onto the horse's hoof. But don't worry, it doesn't hurt, because our hooves are strong with the keratin, just like our fingernails. Now, a person that makes things out of metal is called a blacksmith. And they're going to use these super humongous tongs. They're going to take a block of metal or a piece of metal and hold it over the fire. And it's going to make it really hot, sizzling red. It's going to be burning and smoking, and it softens the metal. Then you take it out of the fire, you put it on top of an anvil. You get your hammer, you start to hammer and pound it into the shape until eventually you get the shape you want. In this case, an axe blade. When it cools off, you go up to the sharpening wheel and you can sharpen the edge. Get yourself a wooden handle. There you go. Handmade, homemade axe blade. Here's another tool made out of metal. It's called a branding iron. Now, this is a cattle ranch. There were no borders and fences back then separating everything. So everybody's cows and bulls were all roaming around mixed up. And when you went out on a roundup to go get some of those cows and some of those bulls with your rayada, you had to identify who owned what. And you might be able to do so as you rode your horse closer, and you would see on the back of the rear end of that cow a brand right on its back hip. Now, how did they do it? A couple people would hold down the cow. Another person would take the branding iron and put this over the fire and get it really hot. And then it would start to sizzle and turn red, and it's burning hot. And as they're holding down the cow, this person would walk up to the cow's rear end and brand it right on the back hip. Now do you think that hurt the cow? Well, it did not tickle, because that cow would just be standing there mooing at first, moo, and then they'd brand it. Well, the pain would eventually go away, and thankfully for the cow. Now, a vaquero is also going to need a pair of spurs. Do you wear these on your elbows? Giddy up, yeehaw! No. You would put them on the back of your boot, like this. And then when the vaquero is riding the horse and they need to get closer to a cow or a bull, they're going to want the horse to go left or right or maybe faster. They may have to use this spur to give the horse a little nudge in the back hips. But vaqueros don't want to hurt their horse. They care a lot about their horses. And horses are pretty smart. Once they went out a couple times, they knew exactly what to do and when to go. And a good rider would be well trained and work really well with their horse and rarely have to use their spur. Now this is a working spur. You wear it to work, you get it dirty and muddy, you take it off, you wash it later, no big deal. Then the vaquero's got to get ready for the parties. So now they're gonna put on their fancy party spurs. They got the silver tab lining, all shiny. They got the bells jingling and jangling. The more jingle, the better. Now the men, the vaqueros, put those on the back of their boots and they'd show up at the fiestas and the parties, and they might try to impress some of the ladies with their fancy footwork. Well, I always struck out. Now this is the Olivas brand. Some folks think the O was the Olivas brand, but this was actually used by one of the ranchers next door. And the Olivas brand used this, and some folks think it looks like a person with a hat. Maybe they're standing with their leg or they're dancing. We're not quite sure what the Olivas brand represented. If you look behind me or over here, this is an actual single cowhide, tanned cowhide. Now what can you make from a cowhide? That's right, rayada, rope. But what else can you make? You can make a vest, a jacket, shoes, boots, flip-flops. You could also make upholstery and blankets, all kinds of things. Did you know you can make 144 baseballs from one single cowhide? Or maybe you want to make 20 footballs. Well, this is an example of a cowhide, and right here at this end would be the head and neck. And of course the front legs and the shoulders work their way down. On the sides you would have the belly. Right down the middle is the backbone and the spine. You work your way all the way around into the back legs or the hind legs. And if these are the back legs, what do I have right in front of me? It's the tail, people, come on. And if you look, this one was actually branded. Kind of looks like an H symbol on this one. You may also notice that this hide has a slightly bluish color. Well, there were blue cows on the Rancho. It was rare, but that's how we make blue cheese. It was actually preserved with chromium salts during the tanning process, and that's what gives it that slightly bluish color. Well, those are some of the Rancho tools. Now it's time to get to work.